How many nights have you lain awake, eyes wide open, your mind running a financial crisis marathon? The car breaks down, the laptop dies, your boss texts, "Let's talk tomorrow." Your heart skips a beat, and you sigh, pull the blanket over, then grab your phone to check your bank account. As if a miracle might happen at midnight. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. You're not alone. Almost everyone has felt that 3 a.m. anxiety, that feeling when every ding from your banking app sounds like you're heartbreaking. But you know what? What keeps you up at night isn't the lack of money. It's the lack of a safety cushion. It's like driving without brakes. Even if you're moving slowly, one sudden stop and bam, you lose control. Money works the same way. When you don't have financial brakes, every small thing becomes a crisis. One unexpected bill can make life feel like it's falling apart. The truth is, you're not afraid of being poor. You're afraid of having nothing between you and the edge. You fear the unexpected slip, the moment life pulls you down without a cable to hold you up. So you live in defense mode 24/7. Every meal is a calculation. Every decision is a campaign. Every cup of coffee has to be justified to yourself. And that's not living, that's surviving. Now imagine this, you're still you, same job, same life, but with one difference. Your account quietly holds $10,000. You know that if the car breaks, you can fix it. If you lose your job, you have a few months to find another. If your laptop dies, you can replace it without borrowing. That night, you're still lying in bed. But instead of counting debts, you count opportunities. Instead of fearing tomorrow, you start thinking, maybe I could try something new? That is the power of a financial cushion. And it doesn't let you buy more things. It lets you buy back your peace of mind. Let me be blunt. Money isn't a sleeping pill, but it's a sedative for the soul. And what's been keeping you up all those nights isn't a lack of spending money, but a lack of belief that you can face the unexpected without falling apart. Today, I'm not here to talk about getting rich quick. I'm here to talk about mastering the fear of being broke. Because when you stop being afraid, you start having choices, and that is the first step toward freedom. Welcome to Mie Invests channel, where smart money moves start here. Subscribe for clear financial strategies. Everyone thinks that to feel okay, you need a mountain of money, $1 million, or at least 6 figures in your account, right? That belief sounds so familiar that anyone who says otherwise is seen as a dreamer. But sorry, I'm here to give you a gentle tap on the shoulder and say, you're wrong. What you need isn't $1 million. It's your first $10,000. Sounds small? Exactly, but don't laugh just yet, because maybe you've been confusing wealth with security. $1 million makes you feel important, but $10,000 makes you feel calm. And between those two feelings, calmness always wins. Let's be honest. You don't need yachts, penthouses, or expensive watches to be happy. You just need to sleep one night without worrying about borrowing money tomorrow. That's real freedom. Cardiac, not glamorous, but incredibly rare. It may sound small, but $10,000 is the first psychological turning point in everyone's financial journey. Before it, you're in survival mode. After it, you start to have choices, and choices are the true unit of freedom. I know what you're thinking. $10,000? That's nothing. These days it barely buys a fully loaded iPhone. True, if your goal is to spend. But if your goal is peace of mind, it's a whole wall against stress. Let me ask you this. When you have nothing, would you dare quit that toxic job that's draining your energy? No, because you're afraid you won't make it through next month. But when you have $10,000, you look at your old boss and think, thanks, I'm good. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're secure. That's when you realize the difference between stuck and free is sometimes just enough money to take a deep breath. Here's what most people get wrong. Money doesn't just buy things. It buys the ability to think slowly. Not slowly because you're lazy, but because you're not forced to choose the worst option right away. $10,000 helps you move from reacting to reflecting. From how do I survive to what do I really want? It's not a jackpot, it's the safety gap between you and panic. The problem is, society keeps selling you the $1 million dream. Every video, every course, every ad screams, think big, earn big, but no one tells you this. Before you think big, think stable. Because if your heart still trembles every time you open your banking app, you'll never be calm enough to think big. The trap is believing that only when you have a lot, you'll finally feel safe. But in reality, safety doesn't come after money, it comes alongside awareness. When you have your first $10,000, you don't just have money, you have proof that you can control your life. I call that the first click into the wealth mindset. It's like opening an account in your mind, where you start depositing the belief that I'm capable of creating stability. And from that moment, everything you do changes. You no longer have to pretend to be successful. You start acting like someone who has the power to choose. Don't get me wrong, $10,000 doesn't make you rich. It makes you stop being poor in spirit. It makes you stop being afraid, stop avoiding, stop enduring. From surviving to living with intention. So next time someone tells you, you need $1 million to feel safe, just smile and say, I don't need that much, I just need enough to sleep well. And trust me, sleeping well, staying calm, and having choices pine, that's the new definition of wealth. Imagine your brain is a smartphone. No, really, it has a battery, storage, and when you overuse it, it freezes. Now think of it this way. Your financial battery is at 2% tow. What happens then? You switch to power saving mode, the screen dims. Heavy apps stop running. You can't open anything except get through the day. Every decision from what to eat to whether to say okay to a coffee invite becomes slow, shaky, and exhausting. And just like a phone about to die, you can't think far ahead, not because you're stupid, but because your system only has enough energy to survive. When your battery is at 2%, you can't dream, you can't create, you can't plan. Now imagine you plug it in, the battery climbs to 80%, the screen brightens, apps run smoothly. You dare to call, to take photos, to open GPS, and go somewhere new. Not because you just bought a new iPhone, but because you're no longer afraid it'll die halfway. That's exactly what having your first $10,000 in your account feels like. You're not richer, you're just no longer afraid of running out of battery. When you're broke, every choice smells like risk. You don't dare change jobs because you fear losing income. You don't dare learn something new because it feels like a waste of money. You don't dare rest because you're afraid you'll fall behind. But when you have $10,000, everything changes color. Suddenly, decisions that used to make you sweat become worth trying. You don't have to close survival mode. You can open growth mode. You stop asking, can I make it? And start asking, can I do better? The best part of having a financial cushion isn't that you can buy more, that you can buy back your mental energy. Like when your phone is fully charged, you no longer need to stay in low power mode. You can play music, record videos, FaceTime for hours, because you know, I have enough battery, and this matters more than you think. Because your financial battery and your mental battery share the same outlet. When your wallet is empty, your mind is tired. When your mind is tired, you make dumb decisions. When you make dumb decisions, your wallet empties further. The classic loop of financial burnout. $10,000 doesn't break that loop by magic. It simply pulls the plug. It gives you space to breathe, to rest, and to reconnect into a different outlet. The outlet of control, and then you start noticing things you never saw before. You find yourself less irritable, less panicked when you hear, the car broke down. You find yourself planning further than just 1 week ahead, all because you're no longer running on flashing red battery. Some people will say, well, $10,000 is nothing. But that's because they've never lived at 2%. They don't know what it feels like to choose between gas or medicine, between paying a bill or eating dinner. But when you've been that drained, you know just getting to 80% feels like a whole new life. So if your brain feels laggy because of money, don't blame yourself. Maybe you're just running on power saving mode. And today's exercise is simple. Start charging, whether it's $25, $50, or $100 a month. Every time you add more, you're not just charging your wallet, you're recharging your mind. Because in the end, freedom doesn't begin when you have a lot, but at the moment you know tens, you'll no longer shut down halfway. Now let's set emotions aside for a moment and talk science. I know, science sounds as dry as overnight toast, but don't scroll past yet, because this is the part where your emotions turn into actual data. Cortisol is what wakes you up at 3 a.m. Heart racing, mind flooded with what-if scenarios. What if the car breaks down? What if you lose your job? What if your credit card bill comes due and you can't pay it? That's cortisol dancing through your veins, screaming, alert, alert, financial danger incoming. But when you have an emergency fund, even just a few thousand, or up to $10,000, your brain receives the opposite signal. It's okay, there's a safety net. Relax, and cortisol quietly drops. Researchers call this the financial stress loop, the cycle of financial anxiety. When you're broke, you worry, cortisol spikes. You make bad decisions, money leaves. You worry more, cortisol spikes again. Sounds familiar? Exactly like the stress, eat, gain weight, get more stressed, eat again loop, but with just one financial cushion, that loop breaks. Your brain exits fight or flight mode. It switches to logic mode, meaning you start thinking like someone in control, not like someone cornered. And there's your power. And this isn't just theory. A study from the University of Cambridge found that people with at least 3 months of living expenses and savings had lower cortisol levels. Their cortisol levels were 20 to 25% lower than those living paycheck to paycheck. The results? They slept better, argued less at home, and made smarter financial decisions. Meanwhile, data from the Financial Health Network says this. Over 70% of people with an emergency fund report sleeping better and feeling more confident when making decisions. It sounds simple, but it's actually a full neurological upgrade. When fear decreases, your brain shifts from survival mode to growth mode. That's when the regions responsible for creativity, planning, and decision-making start firing stronger. Simply put, having a financial cushion equals a smarter brain. Even something as small as sleep changes. Have you noticed? When your account is near zero, you lie down but your brain won't shut off. It calculates. Should I eat out tomorrow? Will I have enough for gas? Did the internet bill come this month? But when you have an emergency fund, you no longer run a mental Excel sheet every night. You just, sleep. And that's the rarest luxury of the modern world. A night's rest, unbothered by money. Now look further. Chronic financial stress can affect memory, focus, and even your immune system. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that money stress is the leading cause of mental burnout for 77% of Americans. You can't create, love, or enjoy life when your brain is stuck in financial alarm mode. But when you know there's a cushion path, $10,000 sitting quietly in your account, your brain turns off the siren and switches on strategy mode. You don't just sleep better, you live smarter. So don't think of an emergency fund as a pile of money saved for bad days. It's the only legal neurological medicine you can make for yourself. No prescription, no side effects, and best of all, Kavik, it never expires. Sounds scientific, but it's deeply human. We don't need much to be happy, and we just need enough for our nervous system to sit still. Let's be honest, $10,000 still sounds distant, but once you reach it, you'll realize life changes less in appearance, but deeply in essence. No fireworks, no one hands you a medal, but you'll start to notice how strangely less serious everything feels. Let's start with a classic example. The check engine light turns on. Before, your heart would jump with it. You'd instantly imagine a 4-figure repair bill, credit card debt, and yourself standing in the rain waiting for a tow truck. But now, you look at that yellow light and simply exhale. All right, I'll take it to the shop tomorrow. Still annoying, but no longer panic-inducing. You still hate the light, but you no longer hate life. With $10,000, every problem in your life gets downgraded from disaster to inconvenience. And trust me, inconvenient is the most comfortable level of adulthood you can ever achieve. Next, losing your job. Before, that was game over. You'd sit staring at your laptop screen, hands shaking, your mind spinning. How will I pay rent? What about insurance? But now, with a safety fund ready, you look at the layoff email and think, okay, maybe the universe is resetting me. You have 3 months to breathe, to choose your next move carefully, without jumping into something worse. You no longer grab whatever pays. You can choose what matters. Money doesn't make you immortal, but it buys you time. And time plus calm is the most powerful combo in life. People with money aren't necessarily smarter than you. They just have more time to think clearly. Now, let's talk about investing in yourself. Before, a $2,000 course felt like a punch to the wallet. You thought, too expensive, maybe later. But with a $10,000 cushion, you look at that course and see opportunity, not expense. You stop fearing losing money and start realizing that losing opportunity is what truly hurts. You're willing to spend on learning, on upgrading your skills, because now you know the real cost is staying still. And the best part? You start making decisions from a place of calm, not fear. Calmness is the ultimate luxury the poor can't afford. When you're no longer afraid of every bill, you think clearer, negotiate better, and move through life more confidently. You say no more easily, because you know you can survive without begging. You say yes more freely, because you know you can take small risks to open bigger doors. And you begin to understand that true freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's not being forced to do what you hate. A person with $10,000 in their account might still be working the same job, but their mindset is completely different. They're no longer heavy, no longer enduring to live. They start living to choose. That feeling, I call it breathing money. Not to show off, not to compete, but simply so that every morning you can sit with a coffee, take a breath, and it's the kind of money that doesn't buy happiness, but buys the peace you need to find it. So if someone asks, what can $10,000 really do? You tell them, not much, but enough for me to stop making decisions out of fear, because in the end, freedom doesn't begin when you're rich. Freedom begins when you stop wrestling with insecurity. And $10,000 is your first ticket out of that anxious zone. The real problem isn't that you don't have money. The problem is that you don't see yourself as someone who knows how to keep money. It sounds small, but it's the line between two worlds. One side is someone trying to save. The other is someone who is a saver. The difference between trying and becoming is that tiny line dividing two completely different financial mindsets. People often say, you need discipline to save. Wrong. Successful people don't save because they have discipline. They save because it's who they've become. Just like someone who's exercised for years, if they don't try to go to the gym, they feel uncomfortable not going. When you start seeing money as a tool instead of a painkiller, your behavior shifts 180 degrees. Hunger save because you fear the future. You save because you want to control it. Being an anchor that drags you down, it becomes the steering wheel that drives you forward. This is the process of identity transformation in finance. From someone who chases money to someone who decides with money. I once asked a friend who had just reached his first $10,000 milestone, how does it feel? He smiled. Honestly, nothing really happened. But inside my head, a new voice appeared, and it sounded completely different. I asked, different how? He said, before, whenever I wanted to buy something, I'd ask, do I have enough money for this? Now I ask, do I want to spend money on this? There it is. That's the difference. One person lives in reaction, the other lives in intention. And that shift, not the number, is the real leap. $10,000 isn't just money in your account. It's living proof that you can create your own safety. And once you have proof, your belief changes. You no longer need someone to save you, because you start believing, I can save myself. From there, even the smallest behaviors change. You panic less when you see a sale. You no longer need to buy something to feel better. You start feeling joy from your bank balance, not from an Amazon delivery notification. People who have their first $10,000 don't necessarily earn more. And they think differently, and that thinking spills into every part of life, and the way you talk, the way you choose jobs, the way you treat your time. Because you've realized, safety isn't something someone gives you, and it's a state you create. Do you know when you've truly unlocked this identity? When saving no longer feels like restriction, but like self-respect. Your money becomes the result of daily decisions, and each of those decisions reflects the person you're becoming. So when you hit that $10,000 milestone, don't just think, I've saved this much. Think, who did I have to become to make this happen? That's the moment you cross the line from surviving to steering. You're no longer struggling to stay afloat, and you're rowing forward. No longer hoping nothing bad happens this month, but asking, what better thing can I try this month? And trust me, when you reach this stage, you'll realize something profound. Money doesn't make you happier. It simply helps you live in alignment with the happy version of yourself that already exists, the version that's calm, clear, and no longer ruled by fear. Now listen, don't trap yourself. Seriously, many people, after hearing about the holy $10,000, suddenly go extreme. They switch into warrior saver mode. Quit coffee, cancel Netflix, cut their own hair, live on instant noodles, and swear, just suffer for 3 more months, and I'll be free. And then what happens? By month 4, they snap like an overstretched rubber band. Their savings vanish in a single weekend. Their account returns to the same old number this time, with guilt and a meme saying, "I tried." Why? Because habits aren't born from pain, and they're born from consistency and small daily pride. Saving isn't self-punishment. It's like working out. Push too hard and you get injured. Stay consistent and you'll change shape without even noticing. So instead of cutting everything like a maniac, start small, slow, and steady. 25? 50. The amount doesn't matter. The motion does. Every time you transfer money to your savings account, your brain records, "I'm someone who has control." You don't need a big leap to change your life. And you need a series of small, consistent steps. It may sound boring, but that's the formula every wealthy person uses. No one sprints their way to financial freedom. They walk steadily, and they don't stop. Don't sit sipping Naruto. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to live miserably or give up joy. You just need to change the question from, "Do I have enough money?" to, "How much can I spend and still feel calm?" When you start talking to money with a voice of control, not permission, you've already won half the battle. Some will argue, "But I need strong motivation to change." No, you need momentum, not motivation. Motivation is emotion, it fades fast. Momentum is progress. It lasts long. Every time you save a little, celebrate it, not by spending it all, but by acknowledging, "Here, I just proved I can keep my word to myself." Small daily pride is what builds true discipline. Another risk: don't turn saving into a rigid identity. You don't need to become the no-spend monk to be responsible. If one day you spend $100 on a coffee date with someone you love, and you don't feel guilty, that's success, not failure, because saving is meant to make life more comfortable, not smaller. One of the biggest misconceptions is thinking financial freedom comes when you have enough. In reality, it comes when you know enough. You'll realize control doesn't live in your account, and it lives in your confidence that you can handle whatever happens. Nadiatricking missed our force. And one last thing, be careful with comparison. Don't turn your $10,000 journey into an Instagram race. Someone else saved $20,000? Good for them. You, potting, pre-head. As long as you're moving forward, you're winning. Money is like muscle. Everyone grows at a different pace. What matters is that you don't stop training. Give me a sticker lash. So next time you think, "I need to go faster, harder," remember, what sets you free isn't the big number in your wallet, but the small habit you keep. Today you save $25, tomorrow $50. A year later, you'll look back and realize you've changed not just your balance, but your identity. Start small, stay consistent, be quietly proud, and that's not a strategy, and that's a lifestyle. That's the new you. And the one who knows that freedom isn't a destination, but a way of living, and your first $10,000 is the passport that lets you walk through that door. Remember, this $10,000 can't buy happiness, but it can buy the calm you need to find it. It doesn't make you rich, but it makes you think, speak, and act like someone who is. And trust me, that's when the world starts to see you differently. When you stop being afraid, you start choosing. And from that moment, you are officially free. It sounds big, but it begins very small. A modest savings account, a consistent monthly habit, a single moment when you decide, "I don't want to live in fear anymore," not because you hate money, but because you finally understand its role. Money isn't a savior. Money is the ticket back to yourself. It doesn't define you, but it gives you time and breathing space to live as the version of you that you want to become. When you reach your first $10,000, the world doesn't change, but the way you see it completely does. You no longer see everything as a threat, and you start seeing choices. You no longer ask, "What if something bad happens?" You ask, What if this opportunity works out? And that's the subtle turning point. Most people miss freedom doesn't arrive with fireworks, and it arrives quietly, through small daily decisions made without fear. Let me be blunt. People who have $10,000 aren't better than you in IQ, luck, or background. They're just stronger in one belief that every dollar they save is a declaration to themselves. I'm in control of my life. They don't save to show off, Coran. They save to sleep well, and if you had to choose between peaceful sleep and a $5,000 watch, I bet you already know which one is truly luxurious. Your first $10,000 isn't about money, for lad. It's about character. It's a psychological certificate proving that you can resist temptation, overcome procrastination, and choose what's right over what's easy. It says, you've reached financial adulthood, not because you know how to earn pen, but because you know how to keep and command. So this isn't just advice. This is a manifesto. Manifesto for those who've stayed up at night fearing their credit cards. A manifesto for those who've hung their heads when friends invited them out. A manifesto for those who are tired of feeling never enough. Because you don't need to be rich to be free. You just need enough to stop being afraid. When you have $10,000, you buy yourself the right to stay calm. You buy yourself a pause before you react. You buy yourself the confidence to face what you once avoided. And that, comes with no price tag. From that point on, every dollar you earn isn't just money. And it's proof of a free mindset. You no longer work to escape poverty. You work to expand your choices, because true freedom doesn't come from how much you have. It comes from knowing enough to stay centered and daring to choose. Today, you don't need to promise to become a millionaire. You only need to promise yourself one thing. I will become someone who no longer fears money, but knows how to make money work for me. And if one day you reach that $10,000 mark, remember to look back, not to boast about a thick wallet, but to smile, because you've gone from surviving to leading, from anxiety to calm, from fear to confidence, from being dragged by money to guiding it alongside you. That is freedom. That is the true destination of this journey.